Hi, welcome to Empowered Women series. I am Purnima, and in Empowered Women series, invite aspiring, no, we invite inspiring women leaders to talk to share their experiences and stories with aspiring women leaders. And this way, we want to get more and more women in positions of power where decisions are made. And that is the only way we believe we can create a true gender equality and world with more happiness and where everybody can have fuller lives. Today, we have with us Aretha, and it's an honor and pleasure to it's really an honor and pleasure to interview Aretha. She is one of the most inspiring women in my life, and I have been looking forward to having this conversation with her for a long time. So let's get going. Aretha, can you say a little bit about just to say teeny bit more about Aretha. Aretha is founder of ACP Decisions, and I am going to let her say a few things about both those things about herself and about ACP Decisions.
Yeah, certainly. Thanks, Purnima. That was a really wonderful introduction, and I'm really happy to be here today, and happy to share, my humble insights as well. Um, My name is Aretha Delight Davis. I am the co-founder and now the CEO of ACP Decisions. We are a Boston-based nonprofit, and really our mission is to use video technology, namely things that are referred to as video support tools or video decision-making tools, to really help empower patients and their families to make more informed medical decisions. Oftentimes when people become ill, especially when they're seriously ill, they enter a world that is very foreign to them, the world of the hospital. And the purpose of our videos is to help sort of demystify some of those experiences by explaining to them in easy to understand language that is now available in 20 something now different languages. Some of the terminologies and some of the terms and jargon that is used in the healthcare space that they may not be familiar with. So when they're talking to the healthcare team, they can, it helps address a little bit of that information asymmetry. So that's who I am, and that's what I do.
Thank you for that, Aretha. Thank you so much. And I am, because your work is around very emotional topic, and having gone through certain experiences in my life very recently, I am in this interview, I'm not going to go there because then it'll just land up me crying and you talking to me. We don't want this interview to be that. So I want to talk about your career and your career trajectory, which is like, what? That's how I went when I heard about it for the first time. And I know that you were, in the beginning of your career, you were working with a successful, you had a very successful uh, law career, and which is most of the people in this world would feel like they have arrived, and they would just do that and there's nothing wrong with it. They would just do that for their entire life, like, but you aren't most of the people. And so you left your law career and changed your life. I want to know more about that. What made you do it? And also how you did it.
Yeah, a great question. It's interesting. I think you're right, Purnima, and a part of me was led to believe that success, especially in the legal sphere, involved being successful at a law firm and making partner at a law firm. But I found myself that, and because of events in my life, namely my father's illness, where that was not success for me. I actually felt a weird sense of failure. I think it was external success by all means, But it wasn't, my internal gyroscope was operating using different metrics. And, the metric in my life, and I think this is also based on my faith tradition, is that I am supposed to use every little bit of uh, opportunity I have, education I have, my talents to help other people. Like, that's why I am here. That is my job to do. And whatever human endeavor that is. But in the short term and in the long term, it's really one of service. Um, I was practicing at my law firm. I really enjoyed what I was doing. I truly did. I worked with phenomenal people. I did corporate criminal defense work. It was exciting to me. It was sexy. It was intellectually satiating. I was always super challenging, and I really enjoyed and thrived in that environment. And one day, my father, who was the person who I adored from my first memories, called me and said that he needed to send me something. So I said, sure, fax it over. And within minutes, really, my secretary brought it into my office. And it was just a 2-page fax. It was a simple, humble looking fax. First page had my name on it, to Aretha Davis. I still have that fax. And on the second page was the results of a PET scan. Now, I didn't know I knew it was something medical because I was not a physician at that time. But when I looked at it and I looked at that one-dimensional image of a human body and I saw all those dark marks or spots, I knew something was wrong. In a visceral way. And what I came to learn over probably the next 3 months, as I became his caregiver along with my mom, was that he had terminal cancer. He had had prostate cancer. He'd been diagnosed many years earlier. And, it started to hit me. That back pain wasn't lawn mowing. I came to realize it was bone mets or cancer that had spread to his back. I recognized, I took him last year on a trip to Laos. He seemed so tired. He didn't have his usual vigor. Everything started making sense to me. And, I went to him, he practically went to every different specialty in medicine at some point. And as I sat there next to him, this was my world. This was my dad. My parents are immigrants. They came to this country in hopes that I could get a better life and education, and everything I had done, and I still do to this day, I do with the mind of, does this honor them? Will this make them proud? And someone with that sort of mindset sitting next to her father, who looks very scared, looks very vulnerable, and we're having conversations that I can tell that he's not fully understanding. It was painful. It was enlightening, though, because if my father, with me there, if we were experiencing this, then that is probably, I surmise, the experience of most people. And that for me, I talked about my internal gyroscope. That for me was the turning point where, I really had to kind of reassess my life and reassess what was important. And it brought me back to that space where I said, I had always planned, I always wanted to go to medical school. I wanted to do a JD, MD. But when I was in college, I wasn't very good in pre-med courses. I didn't take all of them, but it was not a good first showing. So I was really intimidated by that. But that notwithstanding, I had a passion in my heart. I had a purpose in my heart. And I felt that what I had learned as an attorney, an ability to communicate clearly with people, taking really complicated ideas and distilling them in a way that people who weren't familiar with these code words could understand. within the framework of advocacy, if I had that skill and I added an understanding of the medicine, I felt that that was sort of my next step in my trajectory of my life professionally. And I would do that, notwithstanding many more years of training, um, uh, because it was the right thing to do and because it was my calling. So I went to the partner that I worked from, and he was talking to me about, I think my law firm was going to put me up for an award, the top 40 lawyers under 40 in Pennsylvania or something along those lines. And I said to him, please, I don't want the firm to expend its political capital on me. I would hate for the firm to invest its resources and what have you, because I'm going to medical school. And he was on the phone. He was like, wait, we're going to have a conversation about this. And we did, probably later that day. And I explained to him kind of what I was thinking and where I saw myself in the future. And he said the most wonderful thing to me. He said, Aretha, when you came to this firm, I knew your sun would neither shine nor set on making partner here. I knew that you were driven by something else. And I am glad to be able to play a part in that. And I want you to leave here, and I want you to, pursue God's will for your life. And I want you to soar. And don't forget about me. So that was kind of that was the internal processing. And, it was a lot of angst. But once I decided that's what I wanted to do, and that deliberative process was over, which probably lasted about 3 to 4 months, I walked in with sort of not a confidence, but a surety about what I needed to accomplish, a surety and an understanding, firm understanding of what I needed to do, and just a true desire to do it. So that was my sort of transition from law to medicine. And in medical school, my father passed the beginning of my second year of medical school. But he passed knowing that I actually got accepted and made it. And knowing that I had made this decision that was the right decision for me. He didn't necessarily immediately understand it, because my parents were like, I don't understand. This is what most, there are no other African Americans in your firm. You've gone there and you've done well. Like, you could be a real example for others and inspire others in this space, in this field. And I said, yes, but you know what? That's just not my calling. And he came to appreciate that and embrace it and support it really in the same way that I did.
Obviously, career clarity. Everybody, when they're looking for their career paths, is struggling with career clarity. Mm-hmm. You obviously had that in form of your law career, and which is the easiest thing to have, like to have a very traditional career and know what you're going to have the next day to do. And you gave up that clarity because of the strong calling that you had. And I don't know what my question is, and I just wanted to address that. It's like, I in my head, that is even more difficult because I see everybody struggling with career clarity all the time. And I don't know, once they have it, how will somebody give it up?
I think that's a great question. I think it is, it was not easy for me. I had to go through a process of deliberation. And I think, that part of me had to sort of be reborn, that willingness to do something that was different, because I had, I had these external factors that reinforced the belief that what I was doing was the right thing. It was the smart move, right? It's a smart move. this is what, most people would do. And I mean, that's what I did. Um, Yet, I've always been a little bit unorthodox, and a little bit of an outsider, kind of, in a way. And when I was younger, that sort of maybe didn't sit so well with me. But as I got older and I came to accept it, and then I think by that point in time that I decided to go to medical school, I had learned to embrace it. Um, it was I could only be an authentic version of me. I can't be someone else. And I knew what was going to happen once I had that clarion call to transition. If I didn't listen to that, um, I would continue to feel a weird sense of failure. I would continue to be unhappy. And ultimately, that would affect my relationships with other people. It would affect my work. It would affect me. Um, my conscience is something that it's hard to quell. It really, I've always, that's one of the things I think my mom raised in me. When you see something, say something. If there's a role that you think you're called to do it. Don't walk, run, sprint, get there, be there, do that. And I, I have found it to be the most liberating thing I've done in my life. The most liberating thing. I wake up every morning. I'm tired. I work long, as long, if not longer, hours than I did at the law firm. But I wake up with a sense of purpose and passion that I didn't before. I wake up, and a part of it is, if I don't do this now, that may be an opportunity missed for a family. Let's keep it moving. Let's keep things moving. The vineyards are full, but the workers are few. And that's the reality in in the public interest space. There's so much to do. You don't have enough FTE allocation, and you have to live at the shadows of your limitations all the time. And I've learned to embrace that. It's changed my outlook on life. It's changed my outlook on parenting. These are messages. I have two young girls now. These are the messages that I tell them. So I send it to them, explicitly, but they see that also in my day to day. They see me living out that message. So I'm incredibly thankful I was able to do that, because, financially, I guess I wasn't thinking about the finances. I was like, it'll work out. I'll figure it out. I guess if I had really thought about it, I should have been, or thought more, been a little bit more careful about the thinking. Maybe there's a possibility I may not have made the same decision, just thinking about the income loss and the loss of status, right? All these things. But I think what I realized is that those things weren't as important to me as I thought they were.
We don't, we do truly live in good times, because 20 years ago, someone would have said that, doesn't matter what they would have said, but it would have more so perceived as, oh, she's confused. She's like a lawyer. She's a doctor. That she has she's a founder, entrepreneur. Oh, what is she? But however, now, because, a lot of successful people have evolutionary careers. I wouldn't say two careers, they are evolutionary careers, and you never stop being one thing because you became another.
Yeah.
It's addition of everything, and everything together feeds into whatever it is that you're doing. So if someone is thinking about career switch, it's not a career switch ever. It's actually, I just wanted to say it again, that it's a career evolution. And
I agree with you. It's about creating, adding these additional elements that allow for the synergistic brew. I couldn't have had that if I was, ensconced firmly in a law firm or within the legal profession. But now that I've brought this additional variable in, and then also my life experiences, those are as powerful and incredibly informative, to allow for no space up there goes untapped, nothing goes wasted. And it's interesting. I tried to, with my little ones, I totally have pushed this idea in some ways about career transformation. So I'm like, they're like, well, I'll be a doctor and a lawyer. I think I'm gonna throw an astronaut. I'll be an astronaut doctor, and then I'll be, like Supreme Court justice. I was like, well, that's gonna be a little bit more transitioning than what I did. But if that is where your heart leads you, and you have the opportunities to do that, why not? Why not?
Yeah, and you are saying this about you're saying this about your daughters, they haven't, like, their career hasn't shaped yet. But a person like me, when I met you for the first time, it made me feel so confident
I'm glad
because
to hear that.
I started my career as an architect, and then it went into different directions, and now into innovation and marketing, and I got one or two degrees on the way. So and I used to feel, I did find it very difficult to explain it myself to people, like,
Interesting.
and what is it that you do, and like were you confused? And people, when you're women, people don't find it very difficult to say things onto to your face, like, even if
Yes.
they're insulting. So
Right. No, absolutely. Absolutely.
and
And
that doesn't help your confidence.
no, but unless you define your confidence, I guess, in a slightly different way. Like I've always, for good or for bad, um, took pride in being different. I don't, when you say you're confused or unorthodox, I'm like, yeah, oh yeah, that's me. That's me. I'm unorthodox, and I'm good at being unorthodox. You know why? Because I am just authentically going to do things differently than I think a lot of people, and different strokes for different folks. It allows me to bring a perspective and a voice, to the conversation, to my work, that wouldn't have existed otherwise, had I made different choices, had I made more sort of traditional choices. So I don't know. I can understand, and I mean, people have said things along those lines to me, like, "Oh, you're kind of, that's odd," or "Don't you know what to do," or what have you. Um, but I've always, I don't, in my own little, in my mind, taking those as like, well, you just don't get me, and that's okay. You won't get me. Um, I'm a little bit, uh, I may not be your cup of tea, but you'll see eventually that what I'm doing actually is really benefiting people, and it's true to who I am, and I'm not compromising my values in the interim.
I mean, I'm really glad that for you it was a natural state. For many of us, it's not. And people like you make it easier for us. And also, it's a cultural thing. Also, you
Yeah,
grew up in the US, I grew up in India, where the pressure of being like everyone else was slightly higher than in the
absolutely,
US. Yeah. So
absolutely.
all those things played part, but I'm so glad that I met you and I felt good about myself.
Well,
Even better about myself.
no, I'm if my story and my words, bring a sense of confidence and positive, affirming feelings, then that is part of my journey as well. And I'm glad to hear that I had that positive effect, Purnima, because I certainly felt that when I met you. I thought, this woman's got it together. Okay, there's someone. This is someone I can learn from. This is someone that I can observe and learn from and approach to learn more. And I'm going to take advantage of this opportunity. I wish more people were like that. I truly do wish more people were like that.
Can you imagine if world was full of Aretha Delight Davises? How beautiful it would be. For me, it would be. It'll be too strong.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of strong personalities in the world then. That may be, maybe vexing for different reasons. But I do take hope when I see, like my girls and how they, as they grow and mature into women, I'm really excited for them, because I think some of the the trappings and the things that um, held me back, or held people in my, I'm approaching 50 now, in my age group, and certainly, my mom's generation, are less, are less visible now. They still exist, but I do think that, um, and certainly the way I'm going to be raising my children is to think the world is their oyster, and it's okay to fail. You got to jump though. You have to try. The exhilarate, be in the arena, fight. You may fight valiantly. You may get knocked down, knocked out, lose some teeth, but at least you have the satisfaction of knowing that you were there, that you tried, um, that that you've experienced that. Um, so I mean, I agree with you, Purnima. My family's from South America, from Guyana. Had I grown up in Guyana, I would be a very different person, because the expectations, I think, the societal expectations would have been so great. Um, so it would not, I may have thought about these things, but I'm not sure whether I would have had the courage to, or been able to actually act on them. It would have been too off the norm, um, for folks.
This is my last question, and I really wanted to ask this for a long time. The work that you do is emotionally heavy work. It's even heavier than being a psychiatrist or therapist, or being a doctor in a like being a surgeon. I find it even more heavier than that. So how do you create that? How do you not let that affect your life otherwise?
Um, that's a great question. Um, um, well, I would have to say, first and foremost, um, being a clinician and actually interacting with patients in some spaces is incredibly emotionally draining. I certainly did. I certainly appreciated that, when years ago. I think I've always tried to see as a physician, I've always tried to come with a set of tools. There you have your medicines, you have your ability to talk to people, but I've always kind of in this space viewed myself as a tool as well. And there are times when you get dull, you feel burnt out, it's taxing. It can be taxing. And then you have to kind of step back a little bit, and maybe focus on things that aren't as emotionally taxing, that are related to the work, to allow your soul to kind of rejuvenate itself. I do find, though, that talking through the camera, and when we create the videos, especially when I was back in medical school right after my father passed, was incredibly therapeutic. Because it allowed me to live my life's passion, which was to use myself as a tool to help others, to take that pain. I find power in taking painful experiences in my life and some way using them in some way to help other people. And you share a bit of yourself, like when every video I create, I'm sharing a little bit of myself. There's a vulnerability that comes with that. So I don't do that, obviously 365 days out of the year. I do that, maybe 4 or 5 times out of the year for prolonged periods of time. There's lots of filming, but I need to do the other stuff as well. that is less emotionally charged for me, uh, to kind of make this all work. Um, and you learn to become comfortable also, I think, at least I have, in terms of living in this space, kind of that third rail. It doesn't seem as intimidating. And that's also liberating, as well. It doesn't haunt you. It doesn't scare you. It doesn't intimidate you. You see it as something that needs to be discussed, and talked about. Um, when you do that, you remove some of the taboo for yourself, and for others who are touched by your work as well, I would hope.
Yes. And I can, maybe, if this interview had happened last year, I wouldn't have been able to completely understand what is it that you're saying, but now I do.
Hmm.
And it does. So is there anything that you want to say before I let you go?
P, I have to say that, sure, there are other questions you can ask about, tell me, what is your day like from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m.? What is it like? Um, your questions, though, tapped into the most vulnerable parts of me. They tapped into, um, I think, the best parts of what I do and who I am. Um, so I don't think there's anything that you asked me about my journey. You asked me, how do you stay safe in this space emotionally, given what you talk about. You've given me an opportunity to 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 share some of my vulnerabilities and things and choices that I've made and why I made them. Um, I don't think there's anything more important to ask
Thank you
at
so much.
all.
Thank you so much, because that is my that is the objective that I have, that I want women, or people who are watching this video, to get the essence of it. It's I don't want them to learn from Aretha that if you're a lawyer, become a doctor and have your nonprofit. Not that, but I want to get the essence of the video, which is, it's you being different is your strength.
Yeah.
You wanting to do something else in your life is your strength. You not caring, your values being different than what the world thinks the values should be, is actually your biggest strength
Mm.
and your biggest comfort in life. That is what brings peace in your life, and that is what brings satisfaction in your life. And it comes so beautifully through your voice, through your words, through your seeing you, that itself is so inspiring, that it's you being different and you following your dreams is your strength. And don't let anyone tell you otherwise, because they might tell you that because they just don't know the possibilities.
Yes. No, no, that's a great point. My superpower is maybe different, um, but I'm still a member of. I'm still on the Avengers. Like, they all have different powers, and I'm still there. It just may be different than what others are, and that's okay. Um, that's perfectly fine.
Thank you so much for sharing this, Aretha. Thank you so much.